What's up, creature designers? Today we're going to have a bit of a walkthrough of a sketch from start to finish. As usual, I begin by loosely sketching out a rough idea. I haven't really given any thought to this before I designed it, so I'm kind of designing on the fly. You can see I'm quite loose with my lines. I'll be tightening these up in a moment. So I based the anatomy loosely on human anatomy. 2 arms, 2 legs, torso. I wanted to accentuate the size of the belly by including folds of skin where the figure will be compressed, such as where the rib cage meets the belly and the top of the thigh. The legs, I wasn't too sure on how they would work, so I did a quick construction design, just trying to work out how a leg would function with 3 main toes, and decided that it would need a thumb behind. When designing creature anatomy, if you're not sure on how it would work, try and break it down to bones and major muscle groups. This gives you a good idea as to how the forms would look. So, just going through, tightening up the lines at this point. Zooming in, refining the silhouette. Trying to include a bit of the deltoid and the triceps. Cleaning up the interior. I've added very little form details on this one because it was more about the general pose and the silhouette. So, not much thought given to the face. It's kind of bland. The chest area I kind of compressed by making the stomach a lot larger than it probably would be. Same with the thighs. For a creature of this sort of bulk, you would expect the legs to be quite hefty to support that sort of weight. Not really inventive with the hand design on this one. Again, kind of gone for 3 fingers to mimic the 3 toes. The lines, I've kind of strengthened them more than I would normally. 1, to make sure it'd show up on the video, but 2, so that the anatomy would read just on the lines as they overlap. So if you notice where the knee is coming in front of the shin, I've kind of made that quite dark to push the shin back a bit. So just trying to think through the other hand there. It's always hard to mirror a design from one side to the other, especially in creatures that are somewhat symmetrical. But as you can see, loose lines, do them a few times, erase the ones you don't want and strengthen the ones you want to keep. So the feet, not really that inventive, but try to give somewhat a functional look to them, even if they're not anatomically correct. So we can jump to tightening up the head a little bit here. Again, as far as creature designs go, nothing special. So what I like to do is block out or lay down the flats for my entire creature. This has the benefit of being able to create a mask from it, which, as you'll see later on, it speeds up the colouring process because you can use the mask to stop your brush strokes from going too far onto the background and requiring too much tidying up. So just checking the mask working there. So I'm laying in my first layer of shadows, quite light at this point, and then some more darks. You'll notice that the darks look quite strong here, but when we add the lights, they'll balance out. I've decided my light's coming from screen right, so there'll be a little bit of a cast shadow under the character's right arm, your screen left. Forms on the side of the light, obviously a little bit lighter than the side that's away from it. Trying to add some kind of structure to the face. Grumpy looking soul. So again, the anatomy is humanoid in nature, so you can see there we've got the little dip at the bottom of the throat, the collarbones reaching out to the top of the shoulders, the deltoid muscles rounding off the outer shoulder leading to the bicep. So a strong edge to the shadow there to try and imply that the body is blocking the light from the arm. Adding a bit of form to the hand. Again, keeping zoomed out as much as possible. I'm adding in a stronger dark on the core shadow of the form. So what we're trying to do, or trying to show, is that where the light is passing the form and it's just going into shadow, that's going to be darker than the side that's completely away from the light. And the reason for that is there's a little bit of reflected light from both the environment and the anatomy around the creature. It's also reflecting light. So here I'm still going in, trying to add a bit more edge control by making where the light meets a shadow, making that slightly stronger or whiter to show that it's catching the light more. So looking back at it now, I think the pose is slightly off. If the creature was actually lifting his left leg, then I think the foot would be at a slightly different angle. Perhaps the toe at the back would be lifted up. But just being a sketch, then it's a good example of the whole process in its entirety. So the anatomy within the main forms is quite basic. I've kind of implied the belly muscles and the pectorals or the chest muscles, just to give it some level of believability. So again, the benefit of colouring that flat at the start was to create the mask, and by creating a mask I could then create a layer behind it and colour in the background without having to worry about going up to the edge of the design. The background itself, I just used a couple of gradients to sort of imply that the creature's standing on something, but I haven't really given any thought to the actual environment. Judging by the look of this creature, it's sort of reptilian, humanoid somewhat. the absence of clothes sort of implies it's not too intelligent. So you could quite easily paint a swamp or a forest background. Perhaps that's an idea for another video. So working on the head at this point, beginning to realise I don't like it, but we'll keep it for the purposes of this video. Working on the muscles that would pull up the side of the head. Looking at it now, I think they would be better joined to the side of the head rather than the back. Would make more sense. So adding a bit of rim lighting to try and separate the chest from that back arm. There wouldn't be too much light cast in there, but there would be some reflecting from the body. Sampling the colours from the image itself using a soft round brush, but with the hardness turned up to about 80%, pressure sensitivity turned on, and size dynamics turned off. So it gives us a consistent thickness of line, which as you can see on the rim lights, I'm cutting back in using the darker colour to thin the line. You could equally do the same by resizing the brush. Just thinking through the anatomy on the legs at this point. There's quite a big calf muscle at the back and the horizontal bone, which would, I guess, be the ankle bone. It needs to have some kind of flexor muscle in order to pull it back up again. So I didn't use any reference on this, but thinking about it, I guess some kind of camel toe would have been appropriate on this idea as well. Just adding in the darks to where the form really wouldn't be getting any light, so where it's in contact with the floor. So we're over halfway at this point. I think it's probably about 2 hours of sketching and rendering so far. Not a particularly fast artist. I just do it because I like the end result. If you've got any ideas for specific videos, then drop a comment below, like and subscribe, and I'll add it to my list. I've got a list of 20 plus videos to make at the moment, just trying to find the time to make them. So again, working on the chest here, adding darks where the forms are either obscured in shadow or they're turning away from the light so much that they need to be darkened. In my mind, I'm thinking of the colour at this point, even though I'm still black and white. I'm thinking sort of a yellowy green colour might be good for this creature. Again, the reptilian sort of idea. Could equally go for some vivid purple or pink. I think the tricky point, or tricky part with skin colours, is that they're normally either similar to the environment that the creature lives in for camouflage and blending in, or they're for display purposes, in which case they'll be quite bright. I don't think this design warrants too bright a colour, so as we'll see in a moment, I'll start dropping in some colours without a clear idea and then refining as we go. Just touching up a couple of points here. So selecting the background layers, Control U on a PC brings up the colour, hue and saturation dialog. Allows you to make a quick change. I've gone with quite a natural looking green, and I'm hoping to separate the character from the background by using the complementary to green, which is a kind of orangey red. Again, just trying to find the colour here, bouncing between yellow, green and orange, and it kind of works, but as you'll see in a moment, I'll duplicate the layers, flatten them into one image, and then change the layer mode of that single layer to overlay, darkening the background behind the creature to help the lighter colours come forward, and just adding some visual noise. So at this point I'm really pushing the contrast to try and help the creature separate from the background. And here we go, using that mask, I've laid in an orange along one side, a red along the other, using the mask to delete from the outside. And what I'll do in a moment is I'll create a glow effect on the skin by doing the same process, making a selection of the creature using the mask, adding a bright light colour, turning the selection off, blurring it, and then changing the layer mode. So just trying to come up with some kind of skin design at the moment, not really working. So using the selections again, I apply some lighting, blur it, change the background lighting slightly. The lighting in the scene should be the same as what's hitting the character. Depending on the skin colour of the character, depends on what light gets reflected back to the eye. So going in, noodling the toes at this point. Didn't really like the white on the toenails, kind of gone for an off brown colour. Playing with the shadows, trying to cast a shadow on the toe, realised that the light would be going underneath that foot that's slightly lifted. Desperately trying to recover the face, still don't like the structure or the design, but for the purposes of the character, when we're zoomed out looking at the whole character, the face is so small it's not really going to matter. Bit of rim lighting, bit of darks where the form is really turned away, tidying up some of my hasty skin texture. Tighten up the edges, and that pretty much wraps it up. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you like the final result. Be sure to rate, comment and subscribe, and if you have any comments, leave them in the box below. Thanks for watching.